All right, so let's keep looking at DSMA 7 more on fractions. This is part 2. Dividing fractions is basically the same as multiplying, except we have to do a little work in the front end. So if you see that you're dividing two fractions, we have to do what we call keep, flip, change. All right, or some of you learned it as keep, change, flip. Anyway, let's get started. So we have 1/3 divided by 3/5. We've got to change it to multiplication. So we keep the first fraction, which is 1/3. We change the division to multiplication, and then we flip the second fraction. That's actually called the reciprocal. Now we can go ahead and multiply straight across. So 1 times 5 gives me 5. 3 times 3 is 9. It's already simplified, and we're good to go. Okay, so let's work on this one. We're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change the division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip the second fraction. So that's the reciprocal. The 7 moves up to the numerator, the 4 moves down to the denominator. At this point, we could start to clean things up. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead because I'm going to show you in a minute how to just put this in your calculator. Let's see, 8 goes into 24, and it also goes into 32. So let's go ahead and do that. So 8 goes into 24 3 times. 8 goes into 32 4 times. We're multiplying that times 7/4. There's nothing in common on top and bottom, so we're going to go ahead and just multiply straight across. Now this looks crazy, but we're going to leave it just like this. We're going to leave it as 21/16. I know normally we would change that to a mixed number, but for this homework, we are not going to do that. We're going to leave it be. So again, what I did was I went ahead and divided by 8, both the numerator and the denominator. That just cleaned things up, because if I multiply across and then try to reduce, that was going to be crazy. Okay, let's look at another division. So we're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change the division to multiplication. We're going to flip or find the reciprocal of the second fraction. And now we're going to go ahead and multiply. But I do notice that I can reduce a little bit because 4 goes into both 4 and to 8. So 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 8 2 times. And then if I multiply across, I get 6/7. All right, here's the toughest with fractions, adding and subtracting. The problem is we can't just add the numerators and add the denominators. So multiplying is terrific. We just multiply straight across. We can either reduce as we go along or reduce at the end. Division is really just multiplication once we get it set up. But adding and subtracting, we have to find a common denominator. And so in this case, we have a denominator of 2 and a denominator of 3. And so for us to have a number that's in common to both of those, we would have to change to 6, right? Because 2 goes into 6 evenly and 3 goes into 6 evenly. So at that point, we would have to adjust each of these fractions. Over here, we're adjusting 1/2. We're going to multiply both top and bottom by 3. That's going to give me 3/6. So this is, I've adjusted my fraction to have a denominator of 6. On the other side, I take 1/3, but I want a denominator of 6. So I'm going to multiply both top and bottom by 2. That gives me 2/6. And now I have common denominators here. I can add the numerators, so I can add the numbers on top. 3 plus 2 gives me 5, but the denominator we just leave alone. It does not change. Now don't panic looking at this. I'm going to show you in just a minute how to put this into your Casio. But what happens is you're going to add the numerators together. 3 plus 2 gives me 5. Leave the denominator as it is with the 6. At this point, we may have to reduce. With this one, we don't. And so that is actually our final answer, 5/6. All right, with this one, we're adding 7 over 15 plus 1 over 5. So again, we need a common denominator. What's nice with this problem is 5 already goes into 15. So we don't have to adjust the 7 over 15. That one's already good. However, we do need to change the 1/5 so that it has a denominator of 15 as well. So we're going to multiply both top and bottom by 3. And that gives us 3 over 15 is the fraction that has that common denominator. So now I can go ahead and add the 7 and the 3. That gives me 10. On the bottom, the 15 stays put, but this is not a reduced fraction. If you put this answer into MyMathLab, it's going to tell you, although you have the correct answer, it's not in the correct form. Both 10 and 15 are divisible by 5, and so we would have to do that. We would have to divide both top and bottom by 5, and that gives us a simplified fraction of 2/3. All right, so here's one more problem for you to look at. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to show you how to put it in the calculator. But addition and subtraction, both of them, you have to find a common denominator, and you want to find the lowest common denominator. So in this one, 30 actually works because 6 goes into 30 evenly and 15 goes into 30 evenly. All right, so let's take a look at the calculator here a second. I realize the calculator looks a little bit different from the FX115 ES Plus that you were supposed to buy, but the keyboard is the same. So what we're going to do for fractions is we're going to come over here to this button right here. This is your fraction key. If you hit that, you will get just like what you get inside of MyStatLab. So you'll get a box over a box, and you'll be able to enter a fraction. So you'll be able to enter the 3 on the top, and then you want to arrow down. These are your arrow keys here in the middle. You're going to arrow down and put in the 10, and then you're going to arrow to the right, put in your plus sign, hit your fraction key again, and put in 2 over 15. Once you hit equal sign, the calculator is going to do all the work for you. It is going to not only find the common denominator and add both of those together, but it's also going to simplify at that point. So yay for the calculator. And so our answer is actually 13 over 30. They found the common denominator, added those fractions together, and gave us the answer. This one's the same idea. You're going to go ahead and hit that fraction key, put 9 over 10 in, right arrow to the side, put your subtraction key, and then hit the fraction key again, put 1 over 5, hit equal sign, and it is going to find the common denominators for you and simplify if necessary. So you're going to get 7 over 10. All right, let's look at a few word problems. So we have a special on a cruise ship. Oh, that's not very appropriate right now. To a nice island, and it's advertised as being 5/6 of the regular price. So if the regular price is $2,472, what is the sale price? That means that we are going to have to take 5/6 of 2,472. If you put that in your calculator, you're going to hit the fraction key. That gives you can put in the 5 over 6, and then arrow to the right, hit your multiplication, put in $2,472, and you get 2,060 would be the sale price. All right, this one is worded a little bit crazy, but let's take a look. We've got 11 over 20 is the fraction of students ages 10 to 17 that say that either math, science, or art are their favorite subject in school. They only get to pick one. Art is the favorite subject for about 2 over 25 fraction of students that same age. But so they want to know what's left. So the total, this is the total, 11 over 20 is the total fraction of students that name either math, science, or art as their favorite subject. And then art alone is 2 over 25. So if we take the total minus the piece, this is the piece for art only. So we're going to subtract those two. If you come down to your calculator and subtract those two, what's left is 47 over 100. That is the fraction, almost half, of students that name math or science their favorite subject. I wonder if those are real numbers. Not sure, although a lot of people like science. Last problem for DSMA 7. So they gave me a pie graph. We've been looking at these. We have a pie chart, and these are the fraction of the country's movie screens by theater type. So we have blue is single screen, red is multiplex, that's 8 to 15 screens. Green is miniplexes, 2 to 7 screens, and yellow is megaplexes, which is 16 or more screens. And notice they put the fraction right next to it. We are not going to have to compute anything with this. That's very nice of them. So they say, what fraction of the country's movie screens are in multiplexes? Okay, so let's come up here. Looks like multiplexes are the red, and it tells me that 1/4 of the country's movie theaters are multiplexes. So that's it. That's all you have to do.